And all this produced a political consensus, 1999 law, applied the 1st January, which was very quick, immediately applied, to enroll anybody into the health insurance just on means testing. So they put up thresholds on how much money you had, and if it was under a certain level, you were automatically health insured without paying a penny. And it meant not only free affiliation to the public social health insurance, but also to a complementary private one. And the state would pay the contribution, would give these private organization money to insure you. So basically, to make it short, the law had 4 levels. A basic universal medical cover, couverture médicale universelle, the complementary one, which means it's private complement, and for people who were illegally in the country, who could formally go to get this medical local aid, the very traditional old one, this was abolished, so there was something for the illegal migrants had to be done. So the state says, okay, I take it over, not the locals, but central state. So there is a scheme which is called state medical assistance, which the state pays, and it ensures anybody who's in the territory, even people can go and get care without giving their identity. If there was a lot of discussion that the hospitals would be checked by the police to find these illegal people, and they wouldn't come forward for care because afraid of being expelled out of the country. So this was secured. So the state is now paying this instead of local and humanitarian association. And then people who have just a little bit more money than the threshold to enter this free affiliation, they get a voucher, money from the state, a voucher, to buy themselves their private complementary health insurance. And according to the income, it's up to 30% more. You get a little bit more, a little bit less to help you pay for it. So you have to contribute yourself, but you have to produce the proof that you bought an insurance. So the whole thing was harmonizing and simplifying. It looks complicated, but in fact it harmonized and simplified many, many procedures. It gave the same national conditions and benefits, even in the overseas territories France is holding. For all these people who don't have enough money, they get this on the same basis, and they get the same service as I would get. A unique administrative desk, which simplified very much the administration. For all this, for this CMU, you go to the local office of the local health insurance, a public one, the social health insurance, and they just check your income from tax declaration or whatever, and your residency, your electricity bill, telephone bill or whatever, and then they give you an electronic card which gives you access to all this care. Now, what are the benefits? But they are in line with the needs, and they are more than what I get because they have bigger needs. So they have a third-party payer system from the beginning onwards, and this worked relatively well. The doctors had to give up their opposition to it, and now, just now, in March, in April, it is going to be extended to the whole population for the private doctors. So when I come back to France, I don't need to take my money with me to the doctor anymore. He will deal with the health insurance directly. That is a general policy result of this specific issue. So they don't need to pay this rest, which is always taken from from normal people like me, which is not reimbursable. We have something which we call the moderative ticket to make you consume less. You have to pay €0.50 for every medicine and €1 for every doctor you see, and this is not reimbursable. Not even your private health insurance is allowed to reimburse it. You have to pay it yourself. And from this moderating part, co-payment, compulsory co-payment, these people are freed. They get 100% paid for everything. And also they get free provision of what is very expensive and not reimbursed at all: spectacles, hearing devices, dental replacement, prostheses, which I would not be able to afford. So it's a good plan. It's a good thing. It modernizes and integrates. So we are nearly coming to the conclusion. This scheme replaces a very old, outdated medical assistance. It integrates the assisted people into the general healthcare system. They all go to the same services. There's no stigmatization attached to it. There's no risk of a two-class medicine. That was a very big discussion, and that's also why it took so long to make it. People were afraid that if you have free medicine, you would have a sort of a public medicine which would be less good. The CMU is based on a legal right that was explicitly stated in the law because of the principle of dignity. You don't need to say thank you. That's what it means. It's your right. And it's the health insurance who does all the negotiation with the doctors for the tariffs, with the pharmacists for the tariffs, and all this business. And they negotiate also with the complementary health insurances. Now, a few figures, the thresholds. If you're not tired. If you are only one person in your household, you are alone, you get the threshold is 720 euros. If you have just 720 euros income a month, you get this free medical care scheme. If there are 2 people, then it's 1,000 and something. If there are 5 people, so it's for each person. And then it's a little bit age adapted. They look at what is the age of the people in your household, and they get a little bit more when they are older. The health voucher, if you have up to 35% of these thresholds, then you are entitled to get partial help, part of public money to buy your private health insurance, and these are the thresholds for this money. So if you have a couple living with only 1,460 euros, they would get a little help to buy this private health insurance. So these thresholds are higher in the overseas territories because people are poorer there, and these thresholds are just below the social minima. We have a lot of minimum thresholds for housing allocation and for all sorts of allocation, and these are on purpose made just a little bit below. The idea was cost saving, and also you need a house and you need a minimum income every day to eat and to stay and to sleep, but you're not ill every day. So the risk was, so there was a big. Now the beneficiaries, because this is all very much surveyed and made statistics are made, they are really the people who are the most concerned by the economic difficulties of France. Young people are the majority of the people who benefit from this plan. Most of them are females, so there's a majority of females, all these single mothers, and most of it is overseas, and most of it is in suburban areas, the fameux banlieue. So apparently the plan is meeting the populations who need it. Number of beneficiaries, we go very quickly, it's about 12% of the population. Well, there's a breakdown in figures, but it comes down to 12, which is quite a lot. But it corresponds to the poverty line. It's always said the poverty line is in France concerning about 14% of people. And here we are with thresholds a little bit less, so we come to 12%. It's very logical. So financing and management, a CMU-Fund, national fund was created, a sort of administration, which collects all the money from those who pay for this scheme. I will tell you immediately afterwards who pays, so we'll be surprised. Well, the fund collects the money, makes the statistics, and it transfers the money to the official health insurance, the different local funds of it, and to the different funds of the complementary health insurances according to the per capita of the number of people they have enrolled for entitled to this scheme. And they get 400 euros per year for each enrollment. But the real expenditure is always a little bit more, about 10% in average. So all the people who, all the organizations who participate in this plan are losing money, even these private insurances. They still want to participate. I wonder why. that's something connected with the French social model. They don't want to be apart. They don't want to be the bad ones who don't give something. They have to do it. They actually fought for it. Nobody thought about it. They came and said, we want to participate. And then the state abused it, you will see. So anyway, the total cost per year is something of this scheme is something about 3 billion euros, which is not nothing. It's quite a lot. Now, where does the money come from? In 2000, when the system was set up, there was a negotiation, quite voluntarily, between the state and the complementary health insurances. They have some national federation, the non-for-profit ones and the for-profit ones, and they all discussed with the state. They said, we would be quite happy to participate, and we would give you some money. And they agreed they would give a voluntary contribution into the scheme, which would be 1.75 of their annual overturn. They would offer to this fund who was going to collect all the money, and the state was paying the rest. Okay. And the official health insurance was putting its own in-feed in. Now, from 2000 up to 2009, this percentage was growing. The state was asking for more, and in 2009 it ended up to be 5.69, which is nearly 6% of sort of a contribution they paid into this public scheme, the private organizations. They're not obliged. They can withdraw from it. They're not obliged to accept these customers. But if they do, then they pay this. And in 2011, the government came out with a tiny little paper, made some regulation, and said, we have now a tax for additional solidarity, it is called. And all the private health insurers, whoever they are, whether they participate or not, have to pay additional tax for additional solidarity, and it was fixed at 6.27%, and it represents 2 billion a year. It's private money that pays for the public safety net. The state only pays for the state medical aid, that's for the illegal migrants who don't have a sort of private insurance, they just get medical care, and it's only 750 million euros a year, which is not so huge considering that the state is very big. But these 2 billion, they're quite a lot of money, and all the contributions went up. Well, I saw it on my bill. So they managed to make it is the paying affiliates, the people who pay their contribution, who finally finance the public safety net, and they were never asked their opinion. So assessment, rather positive. The achievements are universal access to healthcare as a legal right, simple procedures, and the principle of dignity being respected. The shortcomings are thresholds are rather low. They should be put up a bit. The vouchers, people don't take it really up. Well, there is a little bit of take up, but not so much, because it's a very complicated procedure, and people get sometimes 50 euros a year. They don't bother. They're not yet poor enough to bother. So that's not really, and they don't take up very often. There have been inquiries into it because they don't know, information gaps. They don't need how to read and to write, so it's difficult to fill in the papers. And they consider that the procedure is too complicated for the little benefit if they are at the higher border. So, ongoing political controversy on all this is there's still a big consensus for the CMU. People like it, people think it's a good thing. Even people who would be very much conservative, very much on the right, think it's a good thing. What they criticize is that the CMU patients get more than other people. They get their spectacles paid and good quality one. They worked out every profession, what is the average quality and the average price, and on this basis the service is delivered and the tariffs are negotiated with the government. What they criticize is that people who don't contribute get bigger benefits than those who contribute. But that's an old debate. We always had it. It comes back and back. But there's another point is the medical state aid, the free care for illegal migrants. That is really very much criticized, and it's getting worse and worse. And also fraud. People can cheat about their income level, their personal identity, because in France we have a lot of opposition to very electronic means of, there's no national identity number, as my number doesn't exist in France. There's a lot of opposition. And there is one source certainly of fraud is the medical aid system for illegal migrants can be abused by for medical tourism from especially Africa, and wrong refugees. When you are a refugee, you arrive as a refugee in France, now all the Syrians, you put in a demand as to ask for asylum. And from the moment on you have put down the demand, you enter the CMU system before you get an answer. So you can be refugees without an answer in France for 3-4 years. And during that time, you can bring in your whole family and make them all repaired in the French hospitals without paying a penny. And the people can go back to their country. So there is a problem of organizing to limit sort of abuse. It was a path-dependent innovation. It was an innovation, yes. It even produces, the CMU produces now changes into the general system, like third-party payment. And it's an innovation because it combines social assistance, the public health insurance and private health insurance in a somehow intelligent way. It follows, it's a path-dependent innovation. It completely follows French traditions of public-private mix in the healthcare system. And it follows the normative principles, which are very ancient and very old, and including dignity for the individual. It adapts a safety net to today's difficulties, social and economic difficulties. So I would say it's a rather positive assessment. And it even paved the path. This is what we discover. We have a big new health law now, was voted in January this year, and it's going to be implemented over the year. And many things out of this safety net are now transported into the general system. And the latest news is, I just got the news a few days ago, the CMU will be abolished from May onwards, I think. The basic CMU, not the complementary one. It will be just merged into the normal health insurance. And that is a technical reason. They will issue new cards and they will better know who is leaving the country. So it is about the fraud with migrants and all the families they can bring. But it is also institutionally interesting because everybody will from now on be health insured in France, at least in the official one, and the CMU will be only for the complementary health insurance. So that clarifies the things. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I was too long. And this is my hometown. I don't want to deprive you of a beautiful picture. Yeah.